Hello, sports fans. This is Steven here for JustMyPicks.com, and I'm bringing you the top 10 fantasy running backs of 2015-2016 NFL season. It's a lot of people to get to on this list. So before I get right into that, I want to make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit that red button right now so you can get all the updates and the videos, all the content that Just My Picks produces each and every single week. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it. Number 10. You're looking at Mr. C.J. Anderson of the Denver Broncos. You have a Denver Broncos backfield that really doesn't have a true number one starter, but C.J. Anderson is the one that so far through practice and preseason and a couple of preseason games has really stood out. You know, Monty Ball cannot hold on to the ball. He was touted as the guy that they were using to replace Marshawn Moreno, but he could not quite do it. He could not quite keep the pass protection well, could not hold on to the football late in game situations, if you will. And it's just frustrating for the Denver Broncos because you have a guy like Monty Ball who could really tote the rock and do things. He just can't hold on to the ball. Maybe he needs to call Tiki Barber, but C.J. Anderson, with this new zone running scheme that they have, it's going to allow Peyton Manning to explore a little bit more with the play action. It's going to allow him to open up with a little bit with better blocks with the zone blocking for the offensive line. And the Denver Broncos offensive line struggles a little bit. And you got to look at, because they don't have all of their true starters that would normally be here if they were healthy, the zone blocking is going to help them tremendously. Now, CJ is going to have to pass protect a little bit better if he wants to stay on the field, but I think that he's going to be the beneficiary of a lot of good offense in Denver. And because people cannot just focus on the run game, because obviously Peyton Manning is still lethal. He can still throw the ball. He can still confuse defenses, and he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time, let's face it. So when it comes to that, C.J. Anderson is number 10. Coming at number 9, you have to look at Mr. Jamal Hill of the Cincinnati Bengals. With Andy Dalton and his struggles in the playoffs, that doesn't really affect his regular season. You got to look at the Bengals' offensive line. They have mammoths, and they're opening Pandora's box when it comes to this offense. As we heard the offseason with Marvin Lewis saying, okay, we're going to expand with healthier offensive linemen, with more fit offensive linemen and things like this. This is supposed to be a higher tempo offense with A.J. Green, Sanu, and you have a plethora of weapons on that team. You have the tight end spot that's looking to burst open with talent. The wide receiver position that's looking the same also. But Jamal Hill is supposed to be the consistent for this team. Having a good year last season and surprising a lot of people, including myself, showed just why he can be lethal in small yardage situations. And plus, he has the speed to break away. I think that he'll pile up 1,000 yards or more this season. I think that he has to hold on to the ball. Also, had a fumbling problem late into last season, but you're looking at the Bengals poised to make a playoff run. If they could finally put it together this year and make some wins, who knows? They possibly could be a Super Bowl contender. Coming in number 8, LeSean McCoy of the Buffalo Bills. Earlier this offseason, he pulled a hammy a little bit, but you got to keep in mind LeSean McCoy is going to have to go through the same type situation Reggie Bush had to go through. Reggie Bush had to learn how to run straight north and south and not dance east and west. In this Rex Ryan system, you're going to be ground and pound. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be the most beautiful offense, but you're going to be running the ball majority of the time. So you're going to have to put on a little bit of weight to take those pounds of punishment and hits and things like that. But I think LeSean McCoy will still produce. It won't be as much as he produced in the past because I think that his body is going to take that punishment. Now, when he gets in the open field as far as catching the football, that's where I think he's his most deadliest, because when you give him an inch of space, he's going to try to stretch it and make a mile. You have Percy Harvard on the outside. You have some wide receivers that can, if they can get the ball in their hands, they can do some things. And I think that once the wide receivers start to get playing well, and that's going to open up the offense a little bit more for LeSean McCoy. But I think early on in the season, he will struggle because they're going to fill that box with 8, possibly 9 guys, because they don't have a quarterback that truly scares any defense away from stopping them from doing what they have to do as far as blitzing. So I think LeSean McCoy is going to be pretty good, but I think he's at number 7. Coming in at number 8, Coming in at number 7, DeMarco Murray. Dallas Cowboys led the league in rushing last year with DeMarco Murray as the single-season leader, but you have to keep in mind, he doesn't have that mammoth offensive line. That is a big part of what they did. Last year, he had Dez Bryant. He had something that he can lean his hat on and say, you know what, if I'm not going to take this play, we still have threats elsewhere. I could be a decoy. And this Philadelphia offense, It's not the same. Even though they have a pretty good scheme, Chip Kelly's offense is always going to have him someplace where he's out in the open or possibly using the quarterback draw or zone read and things like that. It's not that effective as we've seen late in the football season. When they start to figure out that Chip Kelly offense and that offense is not making first downs, it's going to be frustrating for DeMarco Murray. I think that he will produce early on. I think that the first 8 games is going to be a true sign of what they can do. But I think that as teams slowly start to figure that offense out, and the spacing is key to that offense, because if you don't have the right spacing, if a second's off, if the wide receiver doesn't get open, it affects the whole play. So you have to look at Sam Bradford's health and if they're really going to respect that. And, possibly Tim Tebow could come in and play. So you have to look at those things. But I think DeMarco Murray will have a pretty good season. He won't be the leading rusher this season. I don't think the offensive line is built for that. I don't think his team's built for that. So he's coming in right there at number 7. Now, coming in at number 5, Mr. Matt Forte, Mr. Everything for the Bears. The Chicago Bears traditionally have used Matt Forte for every single thing: pass block, pass catching, running the ball, doing screens, doing trick plays. So Matt Forte is a little bit of everything for the Chicago Bears. When he is playing, and it makes a difference for this team. He's a very intelligent running back. He gets the smart yardage, then gets out of bounds or goes down. And it's just one of those things where you appreciate Matt Forte for what it is. I don't think the Chicago Bears fan base appreciates him just as much as good as he is, because I think that it's one of those situations where it's like a Brian Westbrook, where you don't appreciate his true value until he's no longer on your team or he's retired. But Matt Forte does it all. I think that he's going to have another phenomenal season for the Chicago Bears. I think that he will be a big fantasy leader in a lot of leagues because he's poised to catch over 50 passes. You're looking at him as an 1,000 rusher also. The guy is built for this system. And I think that with the Chicago Bears moving forward with Fox as the head coach, John Fox, I think that this is going to be a true test to see what Matt Forte can do with the Chicago Bears. Coming in at number 4. You got to look at Matt Forte was number 6. Marshawn Lynch is number 5. Marshawn Lynch, you're looking at what he does in that offense with Seattle. He's the predicated cow of that offense. He's the guy that's going to get the ball majority of the time. I know that they got Jimmy Graham, but Jimmy Graham is going to have to block. He's going to learn how to run block. I know that they have weapons on the outside with Curse and things like that. Russell Wilson is going to be running the ball a lot more this season also. With that offensive line as being horrendous as it is, Marshawn Lynch is going to have to dance. He's going to have to break a couple of tackles, then spin off, then power forward. Because you look at the offensive line during this preseason and the injuries that they've been dealing with all preseason, not even looking at the defensive side of the ball. I'm talking just offensive line. Marshawn Lynch is a pretty good player, and I think that he has enough talent on his own to break a couple of tackles and get a few yards. I think that he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher this season. You have to keep in mind that Marshawn Lynch is one of those guys. He could take the punishment. He could dish it out also. So Marshawn Lynch right now is one of the best running backs in the NFL. When it comes to fantasy, he's going to get his points. He's going to score on the goal line. They're going to put him in on short yardage situations so he can pick up that key touchdown or that key first down. They should have learned, if they learned anything from that playoff game in the Super Bowl, you need to get the ball to Marshawn Lynch. Whenever in doubt, give it to Marshawn. Let beast mode power it through. So I think that right now, the Seattle Seahawks are poised to possibly go back to their 3rd Super Bowl appearance in the last 3 years. So I think that that's one of the things that you look at, and that's why he's at number 5. Coming in number 4, Jamaal Charles, Mr. Everything for the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year, not having a wide receiver score a single touchdown was a crazy, crazy thing. Jamaal Charles is the Mr. Everything in every sense of the fashion. When it comes to that offense, he does it all. Having Jeremy Maclin there this year is going to help a little bit, but Alex Smith is still Alex Smith. He's a game manager at best. He's not out there throwing for 300 yards every game. He's not out there being a field general. He's a game manager. Even look how he's paid. He's paid as a game manager. So I think that Jamaal Charles has got to stay a little healthier. He's got to stop taking such big hits. He has a smaller frame, and that's the only thing that scares me of putting him higher. Yes, he has the elite speed. Yes, he has the ability to catch passes in the backfield and on screens and going deep even. But when it comes to the Chiefs offense, it is stop and go with him. And I don't have a lot of faith in the Kansas City offense around him, so he's going to have to ball like he's on fire next year. And he's going to have to play with some type of demon possessed in him, because I don't see Jamaal Charles putting up the same numbers as he did last year. I think that he's going to take a small step back, but I think he's still good enough to be a top 10 fantasy running back. Now, coming into number 3, we have Mr. Eddie Lacy of the Green Bay Packers. You look at Aaron Rodgers being possibly the best quarterback, 1 or 2 best possible quarterback between himself and Andrew Luck in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers makes a whole lot of things easier on running backs, because Aaron Rodgers is to be respected as a quarterback. He can make any throw. He can get up and down the field with his mobility. He can also change the game with his pace of play. He knows that playbook inside and out. That Packers slant is still one of the greatest plays in the NFL. You look at, it's almost a guaranteed first down or guaranteed touchdown whenever they run it. So Eddie Lacy, he has such a ability to move around and not be able to get hit. He has those patented spin moves where a defender may have him dead to rights and he just spins right out of it or bounces right out of it. The only thing is, Eddie Lacy's going to miss about 4 games this season with injuries. I think that he will start a little slow this year, like he always does, but he proves late in the year that he's good on the fantasy lineup. He's doing everything he needs to do. He's improved his pass blocking from what I can see in the preseason. He's also improved his pass catching skills. So that's going to help Eddie Lacy stay on the field even longer for the Green Bay Packers. You have to look at what this team's able to do. And with the loss of Jordy Nelson, these young receivers have to step up, but I think that they will run the ball a little bit more, giving Eddie Lacy more chances to score touchdowns. And I think that when they get into goal line situations, he's definitely going to be that battering ram to be on the field for the Green Bay Packers. So I think that this is a solid choice, taking Eddie Lacy early. I think that he will be a fantasy stud this season. Now, number 2. We have Mr. Le'Veon Bell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, he's missing a couple of games this year because of suspension. Don't let that scare you away from taking Le'Veon Bell, because Le'Veon Bell, best believe, is the bell cow running that football for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even though Big Ben in that offense with Antonio Brown and those young wide receivers want to throw the ball downfield, they are going to need to be set up by Le'Veon Bell. He can get in and out of those holes very quickly. He can dance. He can do all those things. He can also catch the ball at the backfield. He's starting to become the heart and soul of that football team. Even though Big Ben is the leader, Le'Veon Bell last year showed us a lot of things. In games that you thought that they were losing or going to lose, Le'Veon Bell saved them in a couple of instances. So Le'Veon Bell is becoming the next LeSean McCoy with a little bit more power. That speed that he has, that burst that he has, all the intangibles you want for a top flight running back, he has those things. His game really doesn't have a weakness, but pass protection. So if he accelerates that a little bit more, you're looking at one of the best complete backs in the NFL, and you're looking at Le'Veon Bell as being possibly the rushing leader this season for the NFL, even though he's suspended the first couple of games of the season. I think that the off-field issues, Mike Tomlin's going to nip that in the bud with him, and he's going to let him know, look, you're important to this football team. You can't hurt this football team because we need you to make a Super Bowl run. So those are some of the priority things that I think Le'Veon Bell is starting to get in his head and know, look, football is my career. This is something that I need and I want. So he's going to get it together. And number 1, top fantasy running back of the NFL 2015-2016, it's got to go to Mr. Adrian Peterson. Last year, obviously, he missed majority of the season except 1 game due to his off-the-field issues with his children. The guy is motivated. The last time the man said he was going to do something great was coming off of a torn ACL. The man came back and he demolished all defenses in front of him. When this man is playing like a demon possessed, you better watch out. Bring your hard hat, bring your lunch pail, because it's going to be a long day, people. Adrian Peterson, from what he doesn't play in the preseason, hasn't played in the preseason since like 2011. So I don't even concerned about that. The kid's a workout warrior. He works extremely hard. Now, having Teddy Bridgewater there as some kind of quarterback, better than he's had in the past besides Brett Favre, you're looking at Teddy Bridgewater being a solid quarterback, not just a game manager, but a solid quarterback who can make the big throws, who can use his legs to move the first down. So Teddy Bridgewater is going to be an integral part of this, but this team is Adrian Peterson's team. You look at having Mike Wallace on the outside, Kadero Patterson on the other side. You look at them having just the bare minimum of what you need to be physical. That defense is on the verge of becoming a great defense. You look at all the players that they got on the defensive side of the ball, and now Adrian Peterson has a line that he can run behind and really do damage. I think that he's going to be possessed to not only reach that 2,000-yard mark, but I think that he will lead all running backs in the NFL in rushing. You have to look at his dedication. You have to look at everything that he's saying, and he's saying he wants to be great. He says he's already a Hall of Famer, so he's just trying to pad his stats. I think that Adrian Peterson is going to shock us all, and I think he possibly could break the NFL rushing record this season. So these are my top 10. If there's anybody that I left out or you think that I left out, please leave it in the comment section below. Also, check out justmypicks.com for all the breaking news, all the hot updates. Also, please subscribe to YouTube/JustMyPicksTV so you can debate with me on YouTube each and every day over the hottest debates and the hottest topics in sports. And as always, share this video in your Facebook group so we can debate with you and your sports group. Thank you so very much. You have a great day, and we'll be back next week with the wide receiver picks.